I think that after 2,500 kilometers and almost 100,000 meters of elevation gain, it's time to talk about my bike, the Radon Swoop aluminum version of 8.0 of 2019. So this video will be structured in three parts. First, why I choose the Radon Swoop and why I choose Radon. Then let's do a quickly bike check with the main components. The third part will be my impression and my thought after 3 years of use, considering that this bike really went through any possible kind of trail. First of all, let's talk about why I choose this bike. I was looking for an enduro bike that allows me to ride any kind of single trails, flow, technical stuff. I like every kind of trails, but also I wanted to ride my bike in the bike parks. I also wanted to stay in a budget, and for me the budget was 2,500 euro. After long research on the web, I found also different reviews on this bike. Looked like to me the geometries were fine, the appeal was okay, so I decided to go for this bike. For the Swoop, because the Swoop is actually the enduro bike from Radon, and why I choose Radon is because they offered me, in terms of components, quite a lot. How Radon can actually deliver such a bike with these great components with a very small price. First of all, who is Radon? Radon is the bike brand of Bike Discount. Bike Discount, I think, is one of the biggest online shop on the web. The mission of Radon is actually to make the best possible bikes, keeping an eye on the budget, so with affordable prices. This is actually why, honestly, I choose as my first enduro bike the Radon Swoop. The topic is more complex than that, because you can have the best components on the market, but if the bike is not designed well, that definitely the bike will not perform as it should. How Radon can do that? So how Bike Discount can do that? Bikes in general are made of components like handlebar, forks, that could be RockShox, Fox, All-ins, EXT, whatever, and then also by materials. So the frame is made of aluminum or carbon and is actually making these components. And after they, of course, assemble internally, I think, components to the frame of their bike. Usually the OEM sell to distributors or retailers their bikes that then they sell to the final user. This is also an additional step in which, of course, retailers and distributors make their money on a commission on the sales. Radon is actually cutting this step and is actually selling immediately to the final customer. So when you actually buy a Radon from Bike Discount, you are actually buy a Radon from Radon itself. I think this is also keeping the price lower than the competitors. So this bike is actually a little bit customized. Let's go through the main components and then I will tell you what I changed and why. First of all, for me it was quite important in the choice to have a good fork, because I think this is one of the most important component of a mountain bike. The fork of this bike is the RockShox Lyric Ultimate RC2. 1,000 euro of fork on retail prices. So let's say that out of 2,500 euro, 1,000 was only the price of the fork. Then on the back we have the RockShox Monarch Plus RC3. The brakes, this is something that I changed, and not one time during these 3 years, because I think that the brakes are really a component that should be customized, like the handlebar, the stem, or the seat post. The original bike mounted the Magura MT5, and I think the power of these brakes is really good. In general, I had no performance problem with Magura MT5. The power was great, I think the feeling, it was really a good brake. but I had so many issues on the bleeding of the rear brake that at the beginning I changed with the SRAM code RSC. I think overall it was too weak, and also changing the braking pads with the Golfer competition, this was, yeah, then okay, but at the end, without trying the Shimano Saint, I said I have to try this. With the Shimano Saint, Golfer braking discs and Golfer competition braking pads, I think, at least for my type of riding, I found the best combination. I found pretty good with the seat post, honestly. This should be the SDG, oh my god, I don't remember. The dropper is the SDG Tellis. Related to the shifting, it's a mix of Shimano SLX and Shimano XT. So the derailleur is a Shimano XT. Drivetrain was also a Shimano SLX, but I changed it during the time with a Shimano XT. I never changed the chainring, that is still a race face chainring with race face effect crank. And during the time, I actually changed the 13 TRS Plus chain guide because I broke completely this one due to a crash. I also replaced recently the bottom bracket, that should be a race face BSA. And yeah, and also the shifter is a Shimano SLX. I think also one component that really satisfied me, considering the amount of crash, in general, the amount of rough terrain that they went through, are the rims. So the rims are the DT Swiss E1900. Then what else? The tires. Now I don't remember actually the tires. I think they were Magic Mary on the front and Nobby Nick on the back. With the time, I choose to run Maxxis DHF on the front, 2.5, and Maxxis DHR2 on the back, 2.4. That actually now I changed the DHF because it was completely fucked up due to my latest Croatian trip. And I changed it with the Asse guide. It should be like the Evolution. Just did running Sembering. The feel is great, but maybe we will talk about this in another video. Let's make an honest conclusion about the feeling and performance of this bike. I was expecting to suffer much more with a long travel bike like that in the uphills, but honestly it's not so bad. It's not bobbing. The shock here is doing really a great job, so the bike is not bobbing. The riding style was completely different because it's a 29 inches wheel bike, is definitely less agile than a 26, so the style was definitely different, but the performance of the, especially of the suspension, were great from the beginning. I felt like I could drive on any kind of rough terrain without suffering, just let the bike go. Of course, I studied a lot in the time, all the settings related to the rebound and compressions that I think are quite important, especially, at least for me, the rebound. Downhill, this bike, both in bike parks that in single trails that are rough, is definitely worth the price. Drops, jumps, in bike parks, really the behavior is super nice. I never tried a downhill bike, sooner or later I will do it, but as it is for now, I don't feel like I need it, and I can do everything I wanted to do exactly as expected with this bike. I'm 187 centimeters tall, and I choose for L, like the sides of the frame, and I'm actually between the L and the XL. So I decided to go for an L to have a bit of agility more. In general, I think there are just some minor flops that I could actually tell you about this bike. The first one, I was actually never satisfied 100% about the shifting, because I'm not sure if this is related to the length of the metal connector of the derailleur to the frame. This I changed this one time, and actually the shifting is never perfect. Then in terms of the damages, one thing is actually that the cover of for the chain to the frame is actually not covering this piece, and as you can see, the paint went completely off with the time. And I think the most annoying thing that I discovered with the time is that the shock is actually not locked and is not using the bearings here. So that means that there is a screw that should be tightened at 8 Newton meter to the frame. So what's happening is that when the grease basically is consumed, or there is no more grease, the screw will not rotate anymore internally, and this will actually start to damage, going up and down, damage the frame, because it's not turning anymore, and it's actually turning on the frame itself, and it's also making a lot of noise when it's doing that. I went completely crazy about this noise. I didn't know where to look. I checked everything I could, and then actually I discovered that the noise was coming from here. I was thinking about drivetrain, chainring, whatever. Actually, the noise was coming from this screw. Guys, beside that, I think this bike has no major flops. I think overall it's a great bike. Deliver what actually I was expecting to be delivered in terms of expectations. And I would really like to know which kind of bike are you riding, and actually why did you buy this bike. If you are actually aiming to change your bike in the near future, which bike do you want to buy? I'm really curious, because I will probably buy the same bike, but the version still aluminum, but 10.0. And why? Because I checked every single component of this bike. I sum up the retail prices for this for all these components, and I realized that some of the components were higher than the bike itself, without considering the frame. So I think the Radon Swoop the launch price will be 3,999 euro. I have to check on my computer. I think the components, some of the components are 4,400, something like that, without considering the frame. That is anyway, I think a cheap frame should cost around 600-700 euro maximum. I have to check. But we are talking about top Fox components for a 4,000 euro enduro bike. I think there is no brand that in this moment can offer this kind of price performance. I think there are some brands that are close to that. I think one of them is Propane, because they have the possibility also to customize the bike in the moment of the order. But I think the Propane Spin Drift, that is actually the competitor of this Radon Swoop, cost around 1,000 euro, maybe 1,200 euro more. There is a discussion here that could be much more wide, related to the components. Do you really need a Fox Factory Grip 2 for your biking experience? Because I'm pretty satisfied with this bike, and I don't think that the new bike will deliver me plenty of performance more, or something that I will say, okay, wow, this is a completely new bike. Probably I'm just doing it because for the high price of the bikes now, I could sell this one with a very good price, because I don't want to maintain and spend more money anymore in the future. Because if something after 3 years I have to repair something to the fork, this will be maybe it will cost a lot of money, and then I don't want to do that. That's why I think a change is good in this moment. But let me know what do you think about this. Yeah, I think I talked too much. I have a beautiful panorama here. I want to make a couple of pictures, and definitely I want to make finally a tour. I will check the Südtiroler Trail here in the Wienerwald near Vienna, that is finally open again. Actually, I'm late. It's open since the beginning of August, I think. Nothing else to say. As usual, have fun and see you on the trails. Yeah, I said everything. It's time to ride.